Do you have a trauma bond? Are you confused as heck as to what I'm talking about? If so, I want you to go check out this video right here. In that video, I shared what a trauma bond is and the 7 signs of recognizing whether or not you have one. If you haven't watched that one yet, hit pause, go watch that one first, and that's going to make this one make a lot more sense and a lot more applicable. And if you're ready to break that trauma bond, this is the video for you. I'm going to share with you the top 3 things that you need to do to begin to break that bond and get your life back. This is your first time hanging out, welcome. My name is Karleigh Saunders. I'm a confidence and abuse recovery coach, and I'm here to help you not only heal from the abuse that you endured, but also to help you build a skill of confidence so you can step into the life that you deserve. Really quick, as a recap, a trauma bond is a really strong connection that your brain has created with your abuser. Basically, it's another name for your brain being addicted to the person that you were with, to the person that was hurting you. All right, let's get into the 3 steps. Number 1, commit to living in reality. Now, if you're anything like me, you heard that and you just rolled your eyes so hard, they could have potentially gotten stuck in your head. But this is incredibly important. The more research I did on this, the more I found that it is really important for us as survivors to truly choose to live in reality. The reason this is brought up is because of things like honeymoon moments. Our brains don't want to relive the abuse we went through day after day after day. And so our brains will begin to minimize the abuse that we went through while maximizing the few honeymoon moments that we had. What do I mean by this? Instead of remembering that you had to go through a ton of abuse in order to get those roses, you had to go through a ton of abuse in order to get that cuddle time. They had to go through a ton of toxic-ish before you had the really good one-on-one intimacy time. Yeah, our brain wants to maximize the good things, minimize the small things. So when I say commit to living in reality, it is making sure that you keep your brain in check. It's reminding yourself, hey, I had to go through a lot of abuse in order to get through this one thing. Because if you don't do that, if you don't make that mindset shift, you're going to find yourself stuck in really dangerous situations where your brain's going to want you to go back when it's just not safe for you to. What I have found that really helps me is figuring out my abuse to honeymoon moment ratio. For a really heavy hitting reality check, I have found this exercise to work not only for me, but for past clients, as well as several people who've listened to my podcast when I've brought this up before. However, I do want to share a disclaimer. If this is going to be triggering for you, do not do it. I do not want you to send yourself in a downward spiral. I know how difficult it is to pull yourself out once you've been triggered, and I don't want this to be something that's going to hurt you. If you can do it and you know you can do it safely and be unaffected, that's okay. But I don't want you to do something that's going to send you into this downward spiral where you can't get out of. So I want you to keep that in mind. Even if you can't pull out a journal and dive deep into this exercise, even just keeping this in mind is going to help you keep that reality check for when your brain wants you to go back. So let's get to the exercise. What do I mean by abuse to honeymoon moment ratio? What I want you to do is pull out a journal, and I want you to write down a few of the honeymoon moments that you experienced. If you don't know what honeymoon moments are, I did a deep dive video here. You can check it out here, go give it a watch, and it'll give you more in-depth answers. But in short, a honeymoon moment is the quote unquote good things we experience and the reasons that we stay in the abusive relationship. It could be bringing you flowers, telling you that he loved you, telling you he was sorry, anything of the like. Maybe you guys went on a Disney trip. Anything that stands out to you as being a good thing, something that your brain has highlighted. Now, once you've done that, I want you to begin to think about every abusive thing you had to go through in order to get one of those honeymoon moments. And what you're going to find is that 9 times out of 10, you're going to have experienced 4, 5, 20, 30, 50 abusive moments in order to get one honeymoon moment. Now, I want to take a step back for a second. Even if it was a 1-to-1 ratio, it's never okay to be abused, period. No amount of abuse is acceptable. However, this tends to be a really eye-opening exercise, and it's really powerful because it is so visual. The powerful thing about this is that you now have in physical form a record of the amount of abuse you had to endure in order to get one honeymoon moment, aka your abuse to honeymoon moment ratio. This answers the question of how much did I have to go through in order to get that Disney trip? What did I have to go through to get those flowers? What did I have to go through in order just to get him to say he was sorry? The reason that this is so powerful is because when your brain wants to pull you back to that place of recognizing the good things and minimizing the bad things, you can come back to this list and read off the abuse that you had to go through. Again, if this is incredibly triggering, please do not do it. I don't want you to hurt yourself. But for stubborn people like me, this is an extremely powerful exercise to get me to recognize that what I was going through wasn't okay. And I was spending a whole lot of time justifying really crappy behavior just to get some cuddles. Yeah, this issue runs deep. If this is too triggering for you and you don't want to dive deep into it, that's totally fine. But I want you to keep this in mind. This has helped me break a lot of those awful situationships. Dear Lord, dating in today's day and age is a disaster. But keeping this in mind, even if it's not something that you would label as abuse, how much toxic behavior did you have to deal with in order to get the one thing that you wanted? In a particular situation that I was in, when I thought about this, even though he wasn't necessarily abusive, I definitely went through a lot of things that made me extremely uncomfortable in order to get the 1 or 2 times where I got to cuddle for 5 minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes of cuddle time. It meant everything to me. But that's the reality of a survivor's brain. I share that with you because I want you to know that I'm not judging and that you're definitely not alone. I have been at this for a very long time, and I've been educating on this for a little over a year now and on my own journey for about 3. And so, yes, I've come a really long way, but that doesn't mean I'm still not susceptible to falling back into those old patterns. And so keeping this in mind will help you not only hold back or hold yourself from going back to your abuser, but this is also going to keep you in a realistic frame of mind when you maybe start dating again, or you just start getting yourself back out there, so you can recognize, okay, wait a second, yeah, he brought me flowers, but he was a total douche on the entirety of the first date. These things we may not be able to pick up on because our brain is still healing and in recovery. Keeping this idea of the abuse to honeymoon moment ratio in mind is going to save you a lot of trouble. All right, step number 2 to breaking trauma bonds: creating some affirmations. Now, if you've been listening to my podcast or following me on Instagram, you know that self-talk is a really big deal to me. And the reason that it's so important is because I used to beat up on myself all the time. And it wasn't until I found out the power of words, of my own words, before I began to shift how I was perceiving myself and shift how I was talking to myself. Now, really quick, before you may roll your eyes or click off, an affirmation, I'm not talking about anything woo-woo right now. There's definitely a place for that, but that's not what I'm talking about here. An affirmation is just another word for something that you say to affirm a belief. If you call yourself stupid on a regular basis, that's an affirmation. You are affirming the belief that you are stupid. If you tell yourself that you're smart a lot, you are affirming the belief that you are smart. It's I am smart is an affirmation. So I want you to take that with you as you are working through this exercise. A lot of people get really hesitant with affirmations because they think that it's something that's supposed to work right away, or it's not going to work at all, or it's super woo-woo and it's just, but that's just not true. The point of affirmations is to begin getting your brain used to hearing the truth, used to hearing reality. And what I mean by that is we're going to start telling your brain the truth of how smart, how capable, how intelligent, how worthy you really are. Whether or not you believe it right now is okay. That's totally fine. In fact, below in the description, I will make sure I link to my podcast episode, Affirmation 101, which is where I share the science of why this works and how you can create really solid personal affirmations for this situation and for any other. But just as a brief overview, I want you to pull out a journal. And a lot of the times our abusers are going to say a lot of things to us that we begin to take as truth, even though they're not. We may find that we have a lot of beliefs about ourselves that aren't even ours. They're beliefs that were given to us by our abuser. Whether the abuser was a boss, a friend, a coworker, a parent, or a romantic partner. Regardless, you are probably walking around with some beliefs about yourself that aren't that great because they were given to you by someone else. And with that journal, I want you to begin to write some of those things down. Just brain dump, get it out there. Begin to write down things that you believe about yourself that aren't necessarily good. So for example, for me, the reason that I say that I talk about worth so much and why building the skill of confidence is so important to me is because I had no sense of self-worth at all. I was told for so long that I was worthless, and I carried that belief with me. So what I would do is I would write down on the notebook, I am worthless, I am stupid, I'm not good enough, I'm whatever. Any of those beliefs that I had that were told to me by the abuser, I brain dumped there on the left side of the page. I just dropped them. I brain dumped them all. And it was really heartbreaking to see that at the end of it, I had 4 pages. So 2 pages front and back of all of these negative things about myself. And yes, it sucks to see, but can also be another really powerful exercise to see just how often you're beating yourself up or putting yourself down. But don't worry, we're not going to stay there, and we're not going to leave them there. This is just the beginning. So after you write those down on the left side of the page, on the right side of the page, I want you to write down the opposite of those things. For example, for me, it was I am worthless. So the opposite, AKA the truth, is I am worthy. I am stupid turned into I am intelligent. I'm not good enough equals I am more than enough, and so on and so forth. Again, whether you believe them or not doesn't matter right now. I want you to just look at each of them and write down the opposite. It doesn't need to be something that you necessarily believe about yourself or you feel even applies to you. But I just want you to go through and fill out the opposite of all of those negative things that you just wrote down. What this is going to do, aside from giving you some affirmations for the next part of this exercise, but it gives you a physical layout of any responses that you can give yourself when you begin putting yourself down. So in that way, next time you catch yourself calling yourself dumb, ugly, not good enough, you can go to your list and look at the opposite and just say them out loud. You don't have to think them. You don't have to memorize them right now. Just having that physical list as a reminder to help keep you accountable to yourself is going to be incredibly powerful. Now that you have your list, the next thing I want you to do is pick 2 to 4 of them, and those are going to be your daily affirmations, the good side. So you're going to pick 2 to 4 of them. And if you're an overachiever like me, you're going to want to do more. As much as I hate saying it and as much as you hate hearing it, don't do more than 4. Just stick with 2 to 4 right now, and then you can add on later or even swap them out later on as your brain becomes used to them. Right now, your brain thinks pretty lowly of itself, and it doesn't believe any of the truths that you just wrote down. The last thing you want to do is overwhelm yourself with a bunch of affirmations that you already don't believe and overwhelm your brain to the point of just giving up. Having 2 to 4 gives a solid amount that's going to challenge your brain and push it without bringing it to overwhelm. Where you are on your journey, and only you know this, is going to tell you whether you want to do 2, 3, or 4. I highly recommend no less than 2 and no more than 4. We want to make sure that we're challenging our brains and challenging ourselves as we're stepping into a new habit. Habit of what, you may ask? I am so glad that you asked. What you're going to do with these affirmations is you're going to begin to say them out loud to yourself on a consistent basis. You will say things like, I am smart, I am capable, I am good enough. These are really simple affirmations, but yours may be full-on phrases or something that's a little bit more specific to a certain belief that you have. Here are some examples. I will not talk to someone who lies to me. I will not communicate with someone who manipulates me. I deserve honesty, loyalty, love, and trust. I will not unblock his number because I know I deserve better. Those are a little bit more specific and can be definitely more hard-hitting. If you want to keep to simpler ones as you begin, that's totally okay. You can work up to more specific examples like this one. But I just wanted to share those with you so that way you kind of know how these work and what they're for. And again, you're going to say these out loud throughout the day. Put a reminder in your phone, maybe put them on sticky notes if you don't have ADHD like me and you won't forget that they're there. And maybe put a sticky note on the steering wheel of your car, on the middle of your computer monitor, or even just up on your daily planner so that way you see it every day. Whatever you need to do to remind yourself to say these out loud. Remember, it's not important that you believe it right now. That's okay. I didn't believe these things for a really long time after I said it. And to be completely honest, I don't know when the tipping point was. I don't know what happened that made me truly believe them. them. But the fact of the matter is that I said them consistently until my brain believes them. Our brains are incredibly stubborn, especially when it's set in a belief, even when that belief is negative. So that's why you want to make sure that you say these things on a consistent basis and do whatever you can to remind yourself to say them on a consistent basis. So then that way, eventually your brain caves in and begins to believe them. It's a slow process, but I promise you it's 100% worth it. The major key to any of these steps that I share and with every part of recovery is consistency. You cannot do affirmations for 3 days, 4 days, even 2 weeks, and then say they didn't work. We're not just doing something like putting a Band-Aid on a problem. We are rewiring and healing your brain. That isn't going to happen overnight, and it isn't going to happen after just a few weeks. But if you're consistent over time, this will help and your brain will begin to break through and rewire itself. But you have to be consistent, which is why those reminders are so important. Step number 3, have someone in your corner. I highly, highly recommend finding a therapist. If it's possible, and if you're able to, get a therapist. Make sure that you check your insurance thoroughly if you have it in order to get a therapist. So that way you can begin to work through these things, because chances are, actually not even chances, it's guaranteed that this is affecting more of your life than you even know. However, if finding a therapist just isn't possible for you right now, trust me, I get it. But I want you to find somebody to be in your corner. You can find this person in a Facebook group. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's someone you can call. Maybe it's someone you meet online or in person. Regardless of how it happens, having an accountability partner and having someone in your corner to vent to when you're struggling and to keep you accountable when you want to give in is priceless. I have a few people in my back pocket at all times. That's such a horrible saying, but I hope you know what I mean. I have a few people that are always on hand for when I'm really struggling. Even though I've been at this for quite a while, there are still times where I want to unblock a phone number, go back to someone just to get attention, or maybe have some unhealthy behaviors in order to get the attention that I'm craving. Having someone on hand to keep me accountable has helped me in more ways than one. Because the important thing is, so like for me and my ex used to communicate a lot via Snapchat. And so I got in the habit of sending a lot of snaps to this person. I still have that desire to send the snap, even though I know that I can't send it to him. So what I do instead is I send several, and I mean several. This poor girl has gotten like a half hour worth of snaps from me before to my best friend. And I just let it out. I vent it out. Sometimes I say what I wanted to say to the person. Sometimes I just cry and I whine and I vent. Honestly, sometimes it's just me blabbering and rambling on, just so that way I have the sensation of saying it into Snapchat and then sending the snap to my friend instead of the other person. The important thing here is to have the person blocked so you don't accidentally send it to them. Trust me, I've been there. I've done it on actual accident and I've done it on accident. Yeah, do what you can and get these people blocked. And the reason you have the accountability buddy is to keep you from unblocking. That's really important to do. Whether it's Snapchat, messaging on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you need to do, get an accountability group. If it's one person, that's totally fine. But if you can, maybe get multiple. So then that way there's always someone there. I highly recommend checking out some support groups on Facebook because there's a lot of really good ones there. If you need help finding someone to keep you accountable, please feel free to comment below or send me a DM on Instagram. I am more than happy to help connect you with someone to keep you accountable and to help lift you up. Even if it's me while we work on finding someone more consistent for you, I am totally here for you. I believe in you and I want you to succeed. Really quick as we're wrapping up here, I just want to do a recap. Step 1 to breaking a trauma bond is commit to living in reality. Get serious. Find your abuse to honeymoon moment ratio. Keep yourself in check for when your brain wants to romanticize honeymoon moments and minimize the abusive moments. Step number 2, create some affirmations. Don't skip this one. It is incredibly important. I know you're going to want to skip it because it feels like it doesn't do much, but this is one of the biggest things that changes your brain over time. Don't skip it. Do it. And number 3 is have someone in your corner. Find an accountability partner or an accountability group. If this is something that really stands out to you, I want you to know that you're not alone. You're definitely not the only one going through this. And although there are times it can feel that way, or there are times that we believe that we are because we've been told that we're the only ones, right? Our abusers have told us, our family has told us, whatever, we feel completely and totally isolated. But the truth of the matter is that there's a lot more holding us up, and there's a lot more people that are experiencing the same thing than you even realize. When I found out just how many women are struggling with this, my heart broke, but I also found freedom. I hate to know that other women are experiencing the same thing, but I do love to know that I am not alone and that my recovery can help someone else on their recovery journey. That, more than anything, is the thing that propelled me forward when I just wanted to give up. So reach out, find people, whether that's DMing me on Instagram, searching for a Facebook group, whatever you got to do. Don't put it off. You deserve healing and recovery, boo. It's out there for you. You just have to go and get it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and never forget that you are strong, you are capable, you are intelligent, and boo, you are so freaking worthy.